Welcome to this meeting of the Judean People's Front. Or is it the People's Front of Judea? Which one are we again?
Fuck off! We're the People's Front of Judea!
Fair enough. My name is Heath and I'll be chairing this meeting. Let the record show that I'm joined by the noble freedom fighter Marcus. Our first motion is a film that follows a young man from Nazareth who lives in 1st century Judea, and a religious following forms around him. He eventually runs afoul of some Jewish and Roman leaders. He is captured, beaten, and finally crucified. It is 1979's Monty Python's The Life of Brian. Looking at the minutes from the last meeting, Life of Brian is the third feature from the Monty Python crew. Directed by Terry Jones and the writing credit going to the full troupe, the titular Brian is played by Graham Chapman. Keeping with the theme of the film, they almost had a JC, but missed the mark. The rest of the Pythons play various and multiple parts, probably one of the reasons why the budget was kept to a mere $4 million. Our Mary Magdalene analogue for the piece is Judith, played by Sue Jones-Davies, who Brian pursues throughout the film because she's very easy on the eyes. Who hasn't found themselves embroiled in a conspiracy to overthrow an invading government for the chance to get a sweet piece of ass? Am I right, guys? Okay, well, let the record show that there were some objections to the motion. Despite being a critical and financial success, currently sitting at 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, and making back 4 times its budget, a number of church groups didn't consider the Monty Python crew to be good filmmakers, but very naughty boys. The film was deemed blasphemous and was protested, even being banned in Norway and Ireland. Some bans lasted for a number of decades. With all this being said, it is considered one of the greatest comedies of all time. So, what do we think of Monty Python's The Life of Brian?
So I'm going to make a controversial sort of statement right off the bat.
Okay.
I think this is funnier than Passion of the Christ that we watched last week.
Well, I'm sure the Monty Python guys will be glad to hear that. I think that was their intention. Like, even before Passion of the Christ was made, I think they were aiming for it to be a funny recount of the Christ story.
Yeah.
Well,
I wonder if, because the film's, nearly 40, I'm sure there'll be like a big Blu-ray release or something, like a Brian box set thing. I'm sure on the cover will be funnier than Passion of the Christ, Marcus Scott on there.
Yeah. I'm sure that's how that works. I'm sure John Cleese will be like listening to our podcast and be like, that's going on the front cover right there.
Have you heard the John Cleese news that's come out this week?
No.
He's decided to move away from Britain to a small island because he finds it sort of... his reasoning is he thinks that the Brexit discussion has been so sort of badly handled. It's ruined British politics, and he finds it now so gauche. He has to move to like this island.
No. I agree with him. I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got the money to do it like him, I'd move to a small island. He's probably going to be like the richest person there, so...
Yeah, or why not just buy your own island?
Yeah, but then you can't sort of force your will on the sort of native inhabitants.
And, I suppose, yeah.
Get the respect you deserve, and... Anyway, back to Life of Brian. Maybe that story was allegorical to the Christ myth. Who knows? I'll let the listener decide.
Yeah.
Life of Brian, 1979 Monty Python film, their third film. First one, just a collection of sketches, not much to really discuss there. It's basically repurposed footage from the first 2 seasons. Holy Grail, really good film. I don't think it's as strong as Life of Brian.
No, not narratively, no.
No, it is basically like, here's a funny sketch, here's like an animation to... Well, one of the criticisms, I think, of Life of Brian is the animations used to paper over cracks in the narrative. Yeah.
There's a very basic narrative through line in it, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even within those sort of narrow sort of confines, it still has to use the animation to get from point A to point B at certain points.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you think it's bad in Life of Brian, fuck it. Holy Grail is literally like... And while this was happening, this was also happening. Yeah, which, fine to have like that as first. It doesn't really make, people can say it's funny and, that doesn't really matter, but it kind of does matter for a film. You can't really say that for film criticism, or that doesn't really matter, how they tell the plot and everything.
Yeah, no, agreed completely. It should at least have some sort of story, plot, that sort of thing. Well, we were discussing B-movie last night. B-movie is kind of like that as well. It's got a very weak sort of narrative thread throughout it, but the point of it was just so Jerry Seinfeld could create
a B-movie!
Yeah, basically, but just also create all these weird scenarios that he came up with in his head about what this bee could do.
Yeah. I'm going to be slightly controversial again as well. Life of Brian, better movie than B-movie?
Yes, you are correct in that assessment as well.
Yeah. Well, I say it's a better movie. Obviously, it shouldn't exist because you shouldn't criticise religion through the comedic form. I think every film that tackles religion should be like Passion of the Christ, a sort of had to watch, had to sit through slog that just epitomises sort of the pain and endurance of the Christ myth. Wouldn't this have been better if so spoiler for the end of the film, well, in the end he's killed. Wouldn't it have been better if the end where he's killed lasted the entirety of the film?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think there's not nearly enough sort of torture and killing, and as we see in Passion of the Christ.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't actually have it that bad, sort of Brian at the end. There's no nails through his hand. He's literally just sort of tied and allowed to sort of die in the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and he's only hit a couple of times, I think, with a whip of some kind or
yeah,
something like that. He's kicked a couple of times, but yeah, that's about the extent of it.
Yeah. May as well, actually. We've spent enough time sort of lollygagging around the contours. Would you say this is the funniest film ever, like some people, though?
No.
I would also not go that far. There are some duds in the film, to say the least.
I'd say it's about 50-50, to be perfectly honest.
I think it rises slightly above 50-50.
Okay.
Well, I think they're always interesting, because, this is essentially a spin-off film from a TV show. It's the Monty Python gang, and it's not as bad as something like the Simpsons movie, which is just a long episode of a thing. Do you think that this even needs to be a film, or do you think they could have done it as an episode of a TV series? Because I think the struggle with things like this is always to get an excuse for it to be a full thing rather than just an episode of a TV series.
I think that I think it's justified as a film. I think that they've got enough sort of varying plots going on that they can, justify it as a film.
Yeah.
There is the whole sort of Judean.
There's the People's Front of Judea, the Judeans People Front. Yeah.
Yeah. That whole thing, which sort of just kind of amounts to a whole bunch of sketches about organizational hierarchies and that sort of thing, and how ridiculous and flawed they are.
Yeah. Well, the film is, as much of it is a parody of sort of religion and organised religion, it is as much a parody of the sort of British left at the time of the film, which is famously fractured and sort of prone to infighting, and it's hard to imagine now how different everything is. But because they were sort of the dominant movement at the time, there were just so many different fractions of it, and a lot of what they talk about is more the sort of it's, fight against imperialism, and there's the famous bit where they go, what have the Romans ever given us apart from roads, infrastructure, health, clean water, all that kind of thing. That is a parody of somebody who goes what, why don't we abandon capitalism? What's it ever done for us?
Yeah. No, it's definitely got those elements in it. It's got the it does lampoon religion very well as well in it. But yeah, I think that getting back to what we were talking about in regards to it being sort of that it's got enough meat on the bone basically for it to be a narrative feature, which I think is what makes it sort of work so well. That it could be a completely standalone narrative, even without the whole sort of Monty Python-ness in it.
Mm-hmm.
you could probably strip away the jokes and it'd be fine as a story.
You become quite invested in Brian's life. Really, he's like the archetypal tragic hero from.
Yeah, and all he wants is to get with the girl. That's it. That's his main motivation.
Well, I think that's why this is a much stronger film than the Holy Grail, which sort of has no central. There's no real characters in it or anything. It is basically a joke delivery system. This actually has Brian and his understandable goal of getting with the sort of young radical.
Yeah.
It's quite. I don't think this film ever achieves like any kind of grandeur or anything.
Yeah.
But it's relatively, you feel bad for Brian at the end where so basically at the end he's on the cross and like these various groups come to see him and nobody will rescue him.
Yeah.
Because they prefer him as a martyr. Like,
exactly.
I genuinely felt for Brian at that moment, even though he is like just a comedy creation. Like.
And it is interesting, like at the point, like everything really starts to go wrong for Brian after he gets the girl.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
He gets the girl, and then it all just goes downhill from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't have a good time of it.
No, he does not. Like, his life seems pretty terrible anyway. He seems to be under the thumb of his overbearing mother anyway.
Yeah, typical Jewish relationship there.
All right, Mel, calm down. I think you've watched too much Passion of the Christ.
Anyway.
Well, I think like as you were talking about, like lampoons not just sort of religion, but also sort of the sort of dominant ideologies of the day. I think the reason why this works, as opposed to sort of like lame sort of parrot jokes about religion, like like the kind of ones that you'd get in like stand up, where it's like how stupid are these people wearing a cross? Don't they know Jesus died on that? Like,
yeah,
if he's coming back, that's the last thing he'd want to see. But like, because it actually aims to ridicule sort of the underlying ideology of it, it manages to get at sort of wider sort of societal critiques of what. Like, I think it mainly is parodying what happens when people follow a blind ideology.
Absolutely. If you just see this as a sort of an attack on Christianity, you're missing the point of the film completely. It is an attack on the idea, like ideologies in general, and blind faith in any ideology whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like you could, it's just that it's sort of set around this idea of the Christ story that people think it's specifically Christianity that they're lampooning, but it is just ideologies in general.
Yeah.
That get it in this, and there was a lot of controversy from the church and that sort of thing about the film, and it was ultimately them, well, maybe getting the point,
maybe,
yeah, but sort of framing it as more of an attack on Christianity rather than an attack on just insane blind ideology.
Yeah, I think that's definitely. I'm assuming the majority of people who like had a real problem. So basically, the film was like banned in several countries, and there was a real, like, at the time it caused a real stir. I doubt many people who have actually seen it who were like that enraged about it. Like, it was a big hit, but I doubt the people who really vehemently wanted it banned had actually even bothered to watch it.
No, you never know. Like, I can see as sort of like any sort of authority church figure, or could watch this and go, "Oh, this is awful. Like, this is essentially ridiculing everything I'm about."
Yeah.
And not necessarily just sort of, again, it's ideologies in general. It's not just sort of. So I could imagine, like, if someone, I can imagine someone from like a sort of a left-leaning sort of group, opposition group, watching it and being upset by it.
Yeah, definitely. Like when they're ridiculing the idea of sort of freeing themselves from the Roman imperialists, you could definitely see that as a critique of sort of, people who want to sort of stop. Well, mainly America. At the time, it would have been American. Well, and as it is now, American sort of imperialism. I could definitely see some You'd have to be pretty joyless though, like to watch it and not like be that offended by it. It's incredibly weak sauce, really. For like, mind you, they are probably quite self-serious people who
they probably wouldn't even watch it, I imagine.
Well, I'm imagining that the first meeting they'd turn it off.
Yeah, they'd just this is just silly. This is trivial.
Can we call a vote to turn this off?
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing, though, is it's not necessarily even saying these people are wrong. It's saying that they lack the institutional ability to sort of come together. Like, the main critique it seems to have against the Judean People's Front is that their like issue with the People's Front of Judea is that they aren't pure enough, or that they don't have like the exact same ideology as them.
Exactly. They vary, minorly on whatever point.
Yeah.
And so therefore, they're fractured. But everything is so sort of bureaucratic as well about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, everything has to be put to a vote. There has to be a motion. There has to be, all of these things, for them to, and it's perfect in the film where they're at the end where they're deciding whether they go save Brian from being from being crucified, and then just end up by giving him a little speech saying how impressed they are with him. And
that is one of the sort of funniest and truest kind of things in the film. Well, I suppose, though, that makes it like the perfect satire of both sides as well.
Yeah.
Because I suppose it's saying both that, blind adherence to any ideology, or like, not even necessarily a leader, because there isn't like a leader. There's no God in it, really. Like,
no.
Or not portrayed. Wait, there is God portrayed at one point, isn't there?
No.
Okay, there's no God in the film, or there's no... there's Jesus in one small moment, but it's all shot from the crowd right at the beginning. Yeah. But yeah, it's not. It's like you can't follow a blind ideology, or you just become like a sheep. But I suppose it's also saying that you can also have this like increased vote on every single decision, because that's almost just as bad, because it renders them meek and powerless against.
Exactly. There's nothing is done. Everything is just pointlessly bogged down in process, and then and it's all to make sure that everyone's happy.
Yeah.
So you've got one side which is the authoritarian side of things, which is all like, you must believe and you must do this, and the only word is my word. And then you've got the other side, which is the more sort of collectivist, which is everyone has to agree, and everyone has we've got to make sure everyone's happy, and if people aren't happy, well, they're a part of another group. They have to go away. They can't be a part of our group, because we've got to make sure everyone in our group agrees.
Well, it's famously like prophetic then in two ways, because you have like, it really does foretell, like, in the 80s, famously the left in sort of the West was kind of destroyed by factionalism and sort of splitting into diverse groups, and like that's why it was so weak in like against like Thatcher and Reagan in sort of the 80s, because there was just no sort of consensus on what to do or anything. Like and then also it's sort of prophetic for now. Like, I think after the film we were talking about how it just does seem like these endless sort of debates on sort of small issues, or like, like this fractional sort of... It does seem to be like the kind of politics of the internet, or...
Yeah, and just getting upset about things that don't matter. Yeah. And have no sort of material benefit.
Well, not even that. I think it's things that sort of matter to small groups of people, but they are literally sort of feudal slaves. Like, they can't even fight this big juggernaut of the Roman Empire, because they're just so bothered. Like, the one that's most telling about now, the one that could have been like a joke about now, is the one where they argue whether... Well, it's a dodgy joke now, where the guy says he's a woman.
Yeah. And then he says he wants to be a woman because he wants to have babies, and then they say you can't have babies, and then he gets upset, so then they say, well, we'll fight for your right to have babies.
Yeah.
Even though you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying about sort of material. rights are all well and good,
Mm-hmm.
but if they don't actually materialize any benefit
Yeah.
for the party, what is the point of them?
Well, in this, they literally don't have any benefit for anyone. He literally can't have children. Like, there's
Yeah.
no reason to argue for his right to have children. He can't have any. Like,
Well, he can have children.
well, sorry, he can't grow them in a womb.
Exactly,
so.
yes.
What he wants, he can have. Like,
Yeah.
It's just physically impossible. Like, but we both agree though this film should be banned for transphobia. Though.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely, definitely.
Ban Brian. Hashtag ban Brian.
Poor Brian.
Poor Brian. Yeah, and Graham Chapman, I think, is great as Brian.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Everyone in this is sort of fine. There's another standout's Michael Palin as the is he playing Julius Caesar?
No, he's
The guy who has a lisp and says
he's
biggest
Pontius Pilate.
Pontius, of course he is. Why did I say Caesar?
I don't know.
We can edit that out to make me look smarter.
No.
He plays Pontius Pilate, I believe. You know, just edit that into the. But no, yeah, he's playing Pontius Pilate with a lisp.
Yeah.
And it's an incredibly obvious joke. Every single bit of it is the fact he has the lisp and says silly things.
Yeah, and the general just general escalation of it and that, because it does start out as like very basic, but then as he says more things, it just builds on the last bit to a sort of crescendo, I suppose, where you do just like they do in the film, just start breaking down laughing and that sort of.
I think there's an infectious joy to that, like when the extras sort of break down. It is very hard not to just burst out laughing during these scenes, like. And part of it is, it is just the perfect kind of comedy timing and pacing. It's such a good rhythm to it as he builds up. It's that's a standout scene.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. No, we know which is the standout scene.
Oh, the very. Would you like to do the honors?
The very end, the other one, the Judean People's Front, or the People's Front of Judea, whatever. Their Suicide Squad. Best scene.
I was reading and all that apparently they were like, the film's pretty lean, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
There were scenes shot with those, because they only appear right at the end as the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And they do a frontal attack where they just kill themselves. I don't know what that's a parody of, but so basically there were going to be more jokes with those people in it.
Yeah.
They were going to be like an actual faction within the film, but it was considered too anti-Semitic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't. Well, I suppose I've not seen those scenes. They could have been like really anti-Semitic. I was about to say it's not really anti-Semitic, but I've only seen it based on like that one scene that they're in.
Yeah.
Which is not really.
There's not a single anti-Semitic thing about that scene.
Yeah. Well, except a whole bunch of Jews kill themselves.
Okay. So as we are ostensibly, a faith-based podcast, what's sort of the portrayal of faith within the film? I talked about the film itself. We've had some yucks. What does it say about religion? This film. I'm just say as well, sort of a better film about religion than Passion of the Christ. Certainly better than Bible Man, which we've also seen for the.
Yeah, it's well, yeah. If you're talking about like an actual Christian narrative, it fails completely. As a film that explores religion, it's fantastic as an exploration of religion and belief and what it means and why people believe things and all that sort of good stuff. I think it's really great at that. Yeah. But if you're looking at it purely from this is, you want to learn about the life and times of Jesus, well, it's set around the same time as Jesus, so, and he's in the film. It's a bad idea in that regard.
It is a bad idea for learning the literal truth of Jesus. I'll give you that, yeah. But yeah, as this is probably the greatest sort of comedy about religion, I'd say. Well, sort of it. Four Lions, which we'll watch very soon. I think is a funnier film, but I don't think it's as coherent as an attack on religion. That's just sort of silliness. But for like a serious film attacking institutions, you probably don't get much better than this.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I was trying to think as some kind of sarcastic, like, well, actually, this is better, but I can't really think of any sort of comedies that do it. Well, there's Relgious, which is a documentary. Which
it says, that's it's barely a documentary. It's not funny.
No,
like I haven't seen it for a while, but I'm gonna like this is gonna be a hot take, smoking hot take right here.
Okay.
I think Passion of the Christ is better than Relgious. I'm gonna have to watch it again, and I may have to eat my words.
Okay.
But from when I first saw it, I'm thinking I won't have to.
I would say Relgious, the benefit of being shorter. I think it's a lean 90 minutes.
Hey, come on. We're not bringing shorter into this.
Okay, but I think that there's just enough interesting people that Bill Maher interviews. I mean, he condescends to them horribly, which is awkward to watch. I think there's just enough interest from the sort of people he chooses to interview that it kind of goes over the line to be mildly better than Passion of the Christ.
Okay.
But I fucking hated Passion of the Christ. I thought it was awful.
Well, fair enough then. Mm-hmm. But we've gotten off topic. We've gotten off topic.
Okay.
We've gotten off topic.
Okay.
Bring it back in. Reel it back in.
Yep. Life of Brian. Of Brian.
Yep. Well, we were talking about whether it's a good religious film. I've given my take on it. You've just started talking about Relgious.
All right. Yeah. As I was saying, I think it is the great comedy about institutions, and in terms of as you say, like explaining why people believe in things. Like you do get a real sense that these people actually trying to, although they're doing it in ways that are wrong and laughable, are like trying to find some kind of meaning in their sort of lives and because it's easy for us from our 21st century perspective to like look and laugh, but these people would have had hard lives and probably would have tried to seek meaning from literally anything.
Well, they were an oppressed people as well at that point. They were being occupied by a foreign entity who were ostensibly controlling their lives. So yeah, I can imagine that they would get behind any sort of messianic figure that came along and sort of promised them a better life or the meaning to life or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it does a better job of sort of portraying what it must be like to live under sort of oppressive rule than any number of sort of overly earnest kind of like art house films. Because, you can see that these people need something to believe in. Yeah. And they just believe in... Well, as happens in real life, there are these like either charlatans, like the sort of fake religious prophets in the film, who just will take advantage of people's need to believe in something, and also sort of the good faith actors, like the leaders of the Judean People Front. The one John Cleese plays, I think, is sort of the figurehead of this. Yeah. Probably acting in good faith, but is ultimately so ideologically driven that everything has to be voted on. Ideas are more important than people, stuff like that. They will sacrifice. They are not essentially getting what they need. Yeah. So I think it's both a great comedy about religion and also sort of a good expose of why this kind of thing perpetuates, which is the fact that these people are essentially people at the end of the day, and they have as many flaws as everyone else. And putting your faith in sort of whether it's sort of an extreme version of democracy where people vote on things or just a blind adherence to sort of messianic figures is wrong.
So I'm guessing we're going to say people shouldn't watch this film.
Well, it is highly offensive.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty offensive.
As we've said, it's transphobic. It's anti-religious. Any criticism of religion should obviously be not
full frontal nudity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
So,
ballsy move from Graham Chapman. But no, I think this highly recommended.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think everyone should watch it. And if you've gotten to this point and you've not watched it, well, we're gonna stop now, so you can go watch it. Okay, bye.
You want to discuss what's going to be the next film?
All right, fine.
So next time we will actually discuss as a nice little double bill, the actual film Four Lions.
Oh, the actual film Four Lions.
Yeah. Well, we discussed it earlier.
Not the fake film Four Lions.
Not the fake film Four Lions.
All right. Okay.
Not like the this is a totally off topic. It's not like there's a film on Amazon Prime called Fury Road.
Fury Road.
Which while I was trying to find Mad Max, there were Mad Max Fury Road, which is like a tongue-in-cheek parody.
All right.
But if you were seriously, like the way the cover's designed, you could put it on by accident and not realise.
Is it like furries?
Yeah.
So is it like a documentary of?
I think.
Or is it like a? Okay.
I didn't investigate this enough. We'll report back on the Four Lions episode, but this is the actual film Four Lions. I've seen it. You haven't?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. But yeah, well, this will be our, it's a maiden voyage for the podcast, the first sort of non-Christian work of entertainment we'll cover.
Yep.
Yeah. And just to know, it's
still within the Abrahamic oeuvre.
And anyone who, is thinking like, I'll give it to them bloody Christians, but I won't touch them Muslims. The reason is because there's just not as much art made about Islam as there is about Christianity. Specific
to Islam, with the fact of representations of things being haram. Yes, haram. So, I nearly got confused haram and halal. But yes, that's why you don't see a lot of like paintings, and that's why they get upset when people draw the prophet and that sort of thing. Same sort of rules apply in that, and that's why you don't see a lot of sort of that sort of thing.
And obviously there is the fact that we are, we're lefties, and we love Islam and will not touch it from that. We will only have a go at Western religion, Christianity, because of our inherent left-wing biases.
Yeah, I'm so scared of being called an Islamophobe.
Yeah. Well, that is sort of, we are obviously, it's a form of censorship, really. Like,
I'm not frightened of being killed by some sort of mad fundamentalist Muslim. No, someone calling me an Islamophobe. That's the real problem.
Yeah, well, free speech is dead in this country.
Well, so. Yeah, it is.
But by obviously like a shadowy cabal.
I'm sorry, we're gonna have to end the podcast now. The jackbooted thugs are coming for us.
Okay, yes, and join us next week if there is a next week for us, if we're not killed in the gulag. And we'll talk about Four Lions.